Hey y'all, what's up? Big Wooly here, and welcome back to another episode of our, Exosphere Community Edition Let's Play. Beyond Mines is the name of the people that make the pack. In today's episode, we need better power. So, wanted to get into all of our options for growing crops and everything else, and I am burning through coal faster than I can grow it. So, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, I made myself some signs. We don't have a clipboard. God, what I wouldn't give for a clipboard in the pack. I might even look, being real with y'all, I might even look at adding one just because it's so helpful. But anyways, we need to get into the Ender IO alloys, continuing down that quest line because I really don't know the pack. So, looking at these is probably the best way. We need to make solarium ingots to start getting into where we can make a powered spawner, which would be a good option for us to get ender pearls from the way I understand it. Although our ender seeds from the last one, I've discovered some quirks in those. You can't bone meal them. There's no real way to grow them. They don't like hydrated soil. They only respond to a watering can. A whole lot of things, but I have been like babysitting that since the last recording and just harvesting them every chance I get. So we do have enough ender pearls to get through some stuff today. We need to make the vibrant alloy. This is the one that allows us to do, I think it gets us into all of our XP stuff. And then pulsating alloy is the one that's used for, it seems like, a lot of the power aspects of Ender IO. But anyways, I got materials for all that right here. I didn't have as much iron at the time, but I have since gone to the mining dimension and gotten us some more. So let's go on up here and let's make the different alloys. So the first one is just soul sand and gold for solarium. So we're going to let that smelt up and it's going to output up here. We're going to grab just a couple for now to get through them, and then as we need more, we will get more. We're going to do 8 of the one that uses ender pearls and iron, so the pulsating, and we will go ahead and let all of these finish because I think we're going to get into using some of that today. But we may just get straight into Powah and try to get away, because the only real power generation I see in Ender IO is from the Sterling generator, and that's going to burn coal, and we're going to have like 87 coal plants just to keep up with it, and that doesn't really sound fun to me. So now, the last one is the energetic alloy combined with an ender pearl, and that is going to make the vibrant alloy, which is the other one we need. Once these finish up, I will toss in this big fat stack of the solarium one, because I would like to be able to get to the mob spawner one, to see if we can ramp up our ender pearls to maybe get a mystical agriculture in enderman seed going, and we're going to need a lot of the ender pearls to do that, and if we can get them from a powered spawner, that might be a better option. Alright, so those have finished up. Let me toss in the rest of this, and then let's move on to the next things on the list. As I said, I did make up this watering can for mystical agriculture. It's in your crafting book, but it's pretty simple. It's some iron, a bowl, some bone meal, and then you got to make up the ingots from mystical agriculture, which are prosperity shards and iron, I believe. Or no, yeah, prosperity shards and iron. So let's toss this stuff there. Let's toss this stuff here. I broke my axe right before while I mined. I've been growing the 4x4 spruces on a platform over there, and the pods will still, it escaped. But yeah, we've been growing those, turning them into charcoal for the fuel to keep our Sterling generator going here. And we did get enough to make an iron seed, so we've got the iron seed going back here. And I did go ahead and craft up the harvester from mystical agriculture, but it only harvests a 3x3 right in front of it, so I've got our iron, our silicone, and our coal right down the middle, and then some inferium on both sides. I did go ahead and upgrade the soil, which gives a 200% output chance on inferium, so you can get like double drops from the inferium. That has really been helping us to get more and more inferium out here in addition to inside. Just trying to automate all of this as much as I can to get resources flowing for us. You know, that's kind of the hardest part of any mod pack, especially one where you can grow your resources, is the resource curve at the beginning, getting your materials flowing so that you have enough to do all the fun things you want to do in the pack. Now, back to the quest book. Did we not pull out our alloys? We did not. All right, let's put them in our inventory. Sweet. And what do we get? A golden reward. Golden melon slice. What the heck? From Golden Foods. Oh, it's really not all that great. Okay, but it's something we can eat. Oh, it gives us regen and absorption. Nice. Cool. Alrighty, so onward and upward, as they would say. So the experience rod. Energetic alloy and solarium ingots are used to craft the experience rod, which allows you to store or retrieve experience from blocks that can hold it. It is especially useful for the soul binder, which requires both experience and forge energy to function. Okay, so that's a place where we can start. Looks like we'll be able to get into, there we go, an obelisk where we can store our XP using the rod. And a vacuum would allow a farm to collect up XP. Cool, cool, cool. Mega torch, we were looking at this one. It takes the energetic alloys and some blaze powder, so we can make up those, no problem. Weather crystal. What's funny is we actually got a weather crystal for free out of a chest right there. So we can complete that quest pretty simple. Just put it in our inventory, but it is used to craft the infinite range booster for refined storage. Nice. Okay, so we're cooking then on getting going in refined, but we need power. We've got to do better on power, and that is where Powah is going to come in. So we have found uraninite, done some smelting of it, but for the first tasks, we're going to need to make a casing. We're going to need to make some verticals and horizontals. They got names, but they're rods, vertical and horizontal, so that's what I call them. And we're going to need to make some dielectric paste. So I went ahead and bookmarked all of the things we're going to need to get started there. And then let's take a look at the base of it all, which is dielectric paste. That is a bucket of lava, coal or charcoal, and clay, or blaze powder, but we've got a bunch of lava, so let's just go that route. There's 4 right there, and there's our clay. That should be enough. Let's go craft up as much of this as we can. Let's do it again. We're just going to craft up all the buckets of lava I already had as buckets, and then we will move on, and we can do more later if we need. Now, we're going to need more iron because we need iron bars. I think I've used up all the iron bars we'd already made, so let's just pull out a stack of iron, and we'll start with, you know, just one batch of 16 iron bars. All right, got our bars made. We crafted up all the dielectric paste we had. Let's make some horizontals and some verticals, or just rods, I guess is what they're called. And then now the dielectric casing. This should get us through the right-hand side of the quest line there. Gives us another free lava bucket. Now, Powah is based around the energizing orb. So you build this stuff to make energy, and then you use the orb to make better materials that make better power gen, better power storage, and all of those kinds of things. I don't see the player transmitter on their quest line, but I don't necessarily know what in the pack we might have. Oh, well, I think we do have building gadgets, right? Yeah, so there should be a need. Let's see, at Powah, do we have... Yeah, we do. There's player transmitters in here. They're just not in the quest line. So this is how you're going to get it to your player. You can get your power interdimensionally. Ender gates are the wireless power transfer method. It is a little quirky compared to other packs you may be familiar with, and I did learn a little bit more about that thanks to Squirrel explaining it to me when we were doing our All the Mods 10 Let's Play, because it's always been confusing, but basically you got to make sure each channel has its own cell, and there's like 8 channels or something. We'll get into that when we get there, cross that bridge, fry that chicken when it jumps in the pot. There's about 87 sayings for everything. All right, now quit rambling, Wooly. You're on a Wooly ramble. All right, energizing orb. We'll bookmark that. Looks like we need some glass, a casing, and some horizontals. Cool. I think we have pretty much everything on us except the glass. So let's go get that. Energizing orb. Presto. All right. Now this is going to allow us to get into some of the later tiers. And then the last thing for using the energizing orb is we have to get the Powah into the objects, and that is done with the energizing rod. We're going to need to make some tiny capacitors, which are made from regular capacitors, which take, redstone alloy ingots. So that's how they've modded it. Normally this is just redstone there in the middle, but that's cool. At least the people that put this pack together did some time to, like, layer the dependencies and stuff. It's neat. It takes time. That stuff is not easy to do, so I appreciate the effort they put in to, make the pack flow well with the quest line they got laid out. That's cool. The only reason to talk about this pack so much, too, is, like, downloads on this pack are minimal on CurseForge, and I'm genuinely enjoying it, like, actually enjoying the pack so far, and nobody paid me to say that, so, just for what it's worth, Big Wooly is really enjoying this. All right, we're going to make up some more horizontals. Let's grab out our capacitors. I went ahead and grabbed our redstone alloy that we'd already made together in a previous episode, so don't need to show y'all how to do that because I'm sure you guys have all watched everything so far, and it needs some nether quartz, so let's go ahead and pull some of that out of our storage. Here is our starter energizing rod, and essentially, with the cables we have from Ender.io and our Sterling generator, we have the basics we need to get moving in Powah and start making some of the higher tier stuff. The next tier is basic, which usually just takes a lot of the same resources as we've already been using without having to use the energizing orb, and I kind of would just recommend skipping straight to basic because a lot of the starter power gen stuff is kind of trash, and just make the pieces you got to make to get through it, but don't waste a lot of time like trying to get by on starter unless it's your first power gen and you haven't made the Sterling generator from Ender.io yet. Then you may want to take a look at it, but Powah is going to be far superior in generating RF for us versus what the options I see with Ender.io are. And I could be wrong. If you think I'm wrong, put it in the comments. Talk to me. Tell me why I'm wrong. I am always out to learn something from anybody I can learn it from, All right. Large capacitor is just 2 of the basics, which we had already made in the previous step. We'll go ahead and knocking out some more quests on accident here, too. Got some just random quest rewards here, but that's fine. Inventory is starting to look like a hot mess. Oh, they gave us the wrench for Powah for free. Nice. That's an extra added touch. All right. So now that we are into the basic tier, what do we want to do for power? So the Magmator consumes magma, if I remember correctly, for power gen, and that kind of whatever. The thermo generator, on the other hand, uses heat around it to generate power, and I think we can like surround this thing in lava and get pretty good output. So I was thinking for starters, rather than going with the Fernator, which just burns stuff like the Sterling generator does, or the Magmator, which consumes magma, I was thinking we should try the thermo generator because it can generate 20 FE, and then this one is 60 FE a tick, and then as we get up further, 100 on hardened, and we should be able to get into hardened pretty easy. But let's take a look here and see what it's going to take us to get going with this. All of that we know how to make. Now, the thermo plate we do not know how to make. It looks like just some blaze powder and some redstone, though, which we should have that. Let's grab out a couple of our blaze rods here. And grab out some redstone. And then we should be able to make up those. We're going to need some tiny capacitors, which we don't have, which means we're going to need some more regular capacitors. Craft up another 6-pack of those. So there's that. And then we need 2 more of them, but we're going to need, we're going to need way more blaze powder. Oh, I think these molten cores can be turned into blaze powders. Nice. right? Let's see. Uses blaze rods. There we go. We can make these into blaze rods. Our inventory is getting full. Let's put our buckets up. We can put our extra lava bucket we got back in there. What are these? These are tools. We'll stick that in the tool chest. I swear we got 2 tool parts. Put these alloys up. Oat bread. We got a food chest. We can toss that in there. And then that should give us enough inventory space to kind of work. Oh, we got some extra copper. We can put that away. I swear it gave us like an extra tool part in there too, but maybe not. Now, let's make some blaze rods into those. So that should give us enough. And then now we should be able to craft up all 3 we need. And we're just missing another tiny capacitor. And what else? A casing. There's our casing. And here is our thermo generator starter. What does it take to turn it into the second tier? A couple more of these, so we're going to need more blaze powder. Oh boy, we're gonna have to address that. But I think getting into Tinkers into here and setting up our foundry, or even just a basic smelter, the smeltery, I think will allow us to do it. We will be able to melt down blazing blood and cast it into rods, and we got a ton of that stuff in the nether from the geodes. So I think that's probably something we ought to look at getting into in the very near future. Just because, yeah, we're going to need the stuff. And that's how we're supposed to get it. So we're just missing one more tiny capacitor here. And that gets us our second one. And then if we look at uses on here, we just need one more dielectric casing. Got to have a lot of iron, it looks like, too, just as a heads up when you're getting into Powah. And then go to our uses again. And the basic generator. Okay, now let's go take a look at we're going to play with this in the front yard. I think what we need to do is we probably ought to go grab that lava that I just put away. And the way I understand it, I think we have to put water in here too. I'm not 100% certain, but I want to say that goes there. And then we put the thermo generator on top of it. And then it is going to need... I want to say it needs water in it, but I can't remember if it does or doesn't. Let's see. Empty 4,000 millibuckets. Let's find out. Because I think it's like sort of like a steam thing. Yeah, there we go. All right. Now, is it going to need... Does it consume the water? Yes, it does. Okay. So we're going to need to start thinking about getting our water moved around, which we can do with fluid conduit from... Ender.io, but as you can see, it's using the lava beneath it, which if I take the lava away to show you, you'll see it generates no more power immediately as soon as you remove that heat source. But when we put the heat source under it, now the power gen is back. So wherever we put this up, we need to make sure it's not combustible, even though the fire ticks off on the server. But that is going to get us 60 FE a tick of generation, and these things hold a massive buffer of power, and we have infinite water already in a couple of forms. I actually kind of just missed it on the quest line last episode, and I went for something that I know, which is the or thought I knew, but I fumbled with it, the aqueous accumulator from thermal. But there is a water gen option from Ender.io in the quest book, and that one is right here, the drain. So the drain uses copper alloy ingots to craft a drain, which picks up liquids from water source blocks and transfers them to machines that need it. Keep an infinite water source underneath to ensure continuous operations. So it looks like we could set this thing up with like one of the little 3 in a row infinite water source, set it up over the middle, and then you would have infinite water that way that we could pipe out as well. So with that, we definitely have stepped up our power gen here. So this is huge. We're, already got 80k FE in there as a buffer just being held. And, I have no idea what 400 UI is, but we've got a lot of our machines have a really decent size power buffer already in them, and having that generator over there, this generator, which we can also step up again. So if we go take a look at the quest book for Powah, we've made the first one. They give us some copper. They give us a random minecart with a furnace and a photovoltaic pane, which is needed to make a solar panel. You need 3 of them. I don't think it gives us 3. It gives 1 though. So that's starting in solar power. But here we go. If we start looking at hardened, now we're going to need to make the hardened capacitors, and we're going to need to make the energized steel, which is how you make the hardened capacitors. But that takes us from the 60 FE a tick that this makes to 100 FE a tick. And we definitely have the resources to get into that, I think. Let's look at their if they've changed those recipes at all. Let's see. Energized steel. So that's dark steel from Ender.io. So they did change it. Normally it's just iron in the energizing orb. But so we're going to have to use our dark steel, but 1 dark steel gets us 16 energized steel in the energizing orb. Now let's talk about the energizing orb. We should, in theory, if we grab out some energy conduit here, we should, in theory, be able to, just pull power out there. And then we should be able to, hopefully, we can use Ender.io cables for this, because sometimes these don't play nicely with other packs. Let's see. This one needs to be extract, always active. And this one needs to be insert on the rod. And it's fully charged. And then so now your energizing orb actually doesn't need power or anything connect to it. It just needs to be in proximity to the rod. And if we go get some dark steel, we'll go ahead and just do 2. That'll get us half a stack. So if we put that in there, you watch it charge up. And there we go. There's our energized steel, 16 energized steel that will help us get into the next step of Powah. How are we doing on time? Let's see. What do we have on the signs? Ender.io alloys need better power. Looks like I'm pretty on task for what I had on the episode today. So I hope I didn't talk about anything in the intro that I haven't gotten to. If I did, forgive me. So here we go. I kind of wanted to see how far we could get into Powah, because the further we get, the better the power generation we're going to get out of these things. Now, there may be like some super secret method that I'm missing, or an intended method to get better power, but honestly, this will be better than what we've got, because this is renewable. We don't have to grow anything for this to work. It uses a little bit of the water as it runs, but not very much. And we're going to be able to get into some fairly dense power gen pretty quickly compared to what we're getting out of our Stirling generator. All right, energized steel. So let's take a look at our quest book again. It wants us to make a hardened capacitor, and then it wants us to make a hardened energizing rod, which just means that the rods store more power and can transfer more power faster. So as you get into the higher tiers, the objects you're energizing are going to take more power each time to energize, so you want to be able to get that into them quicker. So let's just go ahead, and even though this is already like generating, we're going to, for safety reasons, so that it doesn't accidentally fall in the lava, we're going to pull our lava first, and then we're going to pull this, and we're going to pull that, and we're going to go upgrade these to their next tier. So the thermo generator needs 2 hardened capacitors. So there's that. And if we look at our hardened energizing rod, we just need another dielectric casing. And then we should be able to take our energizing rod and craft it into the hardened version. So there we go. Now, the thermo generator, if we go to uses on it and then uses again, we're going to need 2 more of the thermo plate. And this is going to be the last one we can do without having to address the blaze rod situation, because we need 2 of these. And then, yeah, we're going to need more blaze rods in order to proceed. but that's okay, because I think we're going to be coming up on time, and we can do a whole Tinkers episode next time to start talking about the smeltery and the foundry and all of those things for getting into, you know, using what we have to get more blaze rods without having to go to the nether even more, because the nether was scary. Well, actually, the nether in this one's not scary. The nether in the other pack I'm playing, it's scary. All right, what are we doing? Where were we? Wooly, quit getting distracted. They're gonna unsubscribe. Okay, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Basic capacitors, cool. Large capacitor, cool. Turn that into a hardened capacitor, sweet. And what's mine say? Dude. All right. There we go. And we're still missing it. Come on, click the button. There we go. There we go. So I think this will be our stopping point for how far we move, but we're up to 100 FE a tick that this thing's going to be able to generate for us, and we can energize the next tier. Now, we may be able to go ahead and get the materials going for some of the next tier setups, but we are not going to be able to upgrade our hardened generator because, well, it's... we need more blaze rods, and I don't think we have enough time to get through setting up the foundry in today's episode without just making it ridiculously long. So there is our energizing rod. It's fully charged up. We do need to put some water in here. I ought to make, there is a chalice like our lava one, but for water, and it's infinite. So that'd be a good idea to probably make just to have on hand. So let's put that on. We'll redo these signs together so that we know what's going to be in the next episode. Real quick, you just made an AFK mob farm. Good job, Hans. So yeah, those of you that don't know, this is just like the last series. This is a server. I am going to do a little better on this one to preserve my playthrough without external influences. I kind of let it slip on the last one a little, and I know it probably didn't bug anybody, but it did bug me a little. So I will make sure that, my progress is my own and you guys get to see it, and we're not streaming this. So I'm going to try and keep this pack in this series so that we can play through it together. Yeah, thermo generator, hardened, stored 100K. There we go. It's like, why are you not filling up? But it was probably filling up the 100 KFE there. And that gets us to the next tier. Now let's see what we get. Ooh, some dry ice. That's useful. We can make dry ice, by the way. You can make dry ice if the recipe is the same. We can make dry ice in the energizing orb. Let's see. Yeah, well, let's unpin a bunch of this now that we've made it and talked about it. We're going to need to leave that. There we go. So there's our next generator, and as you can see, that tier says blazing, and just like you might think, blazing crystals are energized. Oh, energized energetic alloy rather than blaze rods. Okay, well, in that case, thanks guys. We could try to go another tier. I think that's what we'll do. I think we're going to try to go one more tier on this. So let's see. Blazing crystals are energetic alloy from Ender IO in the energizing orb. Heck yeah. We got plenty of that. So let's try to do like an even 10 if we can. The dry ice is nice because that's what we use in the Powah reactors, and those things make some real power, like for real, like serious amounts of power. So that'll be real fun to get into. But there we have it. There's a first blazing crystal. These are 1-to-1. Now, you can hopper in, hopper out. Do we have anything like laser IO in here? We do. Awesome. Yeah, we're going to need to get into laser IO for moving some items around because that'll be great. We could probably, I might try to play with the item pipes from this too. There's definitely going to be a way for us to automate this, but we're getting here into the next one. I'm going to keep working on this. We're going to keep talking. So for next time, we want to look at ways to make blaze powder because we're going to need that. So let's put on the list that next episode, we're going to do a Tinker's episode on the smeltery and foundry. I think I spelt that right. If not, y'all can make fun of me in the comments. So we're going to work on Tinker's, smeltery, and foundry. And then for me, in between, build a spot for all the technology. For all the tech. That works. So in between episodes, my homework's going to be to get a spot built for all the technology that we're going to be working with so that it doesn't have to be upstairs in my house. And then it'll probably be back here somewhere. Maybe even, we'll just make the farm a little like more decorative and less functional, or come over here. We do have like a chunk of this terrain here that's kind of like a hill. So maybe we could build into that. I'm not sure. I'll take a look around, see what I can come up with for a spot, and I'll get something built in between this episode and the next episode. But we made it into Powah all the way up to our blazing crystals today. Blazing crystals are going to get us, let's see, what does the blazing one get? Let's take a peek. I'll probably make it off camera in between episodes. That one gets us to 200 FE a tick, and it can extract 3.2k FE a tick. So even if like it can't keep up with it, it can do sustained bursts way higher, which is awesome. But we're going to need that blaze powder. So I think a quick detour before we proceed too much to ensure that we have the resources coming in we need. With Tinkers next time, we'll make for a great episode. One last thing to cover with you. Construction wands are in the pack. They have some different recipes than they've had in the past, but these are some of my favorite building tools. If you're not familiar with them, let's just give a quick demonstration here. So the way they work, there's the most basic of basics. If you are building with something and you have a whole bunch of them in your hand and you have the same material as you're trying to build with, it will just lay down a row of them copying the pattern that's on the ground, but you can go into a menu and change all sorts of stuff about how it behaves. But for the simplest of simples, quick demonstration, wands work like this. So I've laid out that row right there. If I want to put out some more, I just use the wand and right click it. And as long as I have them, it's going to put them out. Now, if you have another block that you want to put down instead and you put it in your offhand, it will place it in the same pattern down for you, as long as you have enough of them in your inventory. Those are extremely useful. The diamond one is not too bad to get to, and I would highly recommend making one and getting it in your backpack. Just keep it, because when you're building, especially like when you lay walls out, you can put your first layer down and then have a whole building built in a couple seconds. It is really, really useful. And with that, thank you guys so much for the attention you're giving this new series. I'm still having a lot of fun with it. We got all the way through getting some better power going today, and I will get that plugged into what we're doing and get us a new spot for using all that power set up in between this episode and the next episode. And I look forward to exploring Tinkers with you guys next time.